He stole my games, mocked my music, and thought he'd never pay for it. So I mailed a letter that made his ultra-religious parents think he was secretly gay. And trust me, what happened next was way beyond what we expected. If you've ever been betrayed by someone who took advantage of your kindness, hit that like button and buckle up. Because today's story isn't just about sweet revenge, it's about poetic justice served in the most humiliating way imaginable. Let me take you back to the early 90s, a time before the internet ruled the world, and when PC gaming was more like a secret club than a global phenomenon. I was a teenager, living in a small town where owning a personal computer made you a unicorn. My best friend and I were two of the very few kids who actually had PCs, and we were obsessed with gaming. The Settlers, Doom 2, Monkey Island. Pure gold at the time. But these games weren't easy to get. There were no digital downloads, no Steam, and the local stores carried maybe 2 titles, if you were lucky. So we started ordering games from abroad by airmail. Pricey? Absolutely. But worth every cent. To stretch our budgets, we'd trade games with each other and carefully copy the discs. Yes, the big old floppy ones. And even the copy protection, which was often something ridiculous like a color-coded manual page. It was a tight operation, a partnership built on trust, effort, and a shared love of gaming. Then he showed up. Let's call him Mark. Mark was a new kid who joined our class halfway through the year. He was flashy, loud, and very quickly made it known that his uncle, apparently, had an unlimited stash of PC games. Games we'd only dreamed of playing. Naturally, my friend and I were intrigued. If this was legit, it could be a gold mine. So we offered him a trade. We'd give him some of our originals so he could make copies, and in return, he'd share some of his uncle's games. Sounded fair, right? Except, we never got a single working copy back. What we did get were corrupted discs, missing files, botched copy protection, and scratched originals. Every single time. We brushed it off at first. Maybe he didn't know how to copy correctly. Maybe it was just bad luck. But after 3, 4, 5 trades gone wrong, it became obvious. Mark wasn't just incompetent. He was stealing from us. And worse, he started treating us like suckers, bragging about the games he had, laughing when we complained, acting like we were desperate, pathetic nerds. He'd even insult me personally. I was a massive Queen fan, and he'd mock me for it, calling Freddie Mercury a gay freak, and saying I must be gay too for liking his music. I was furious, humiliated, powerless. All that trust, the hours we'd spent saving and sharing, gone, and this guy walked around like a king. That's when we decided he needed to be taken down. The opportunity came when our school organized a field trip to an AIDS awareness event. This was the early 90s. Freddie Mercury had passed away not long before, and public campaigns about AIDS, homosexuality, and safe sex were everywhere. At the event, they handed out educational flyers and, believe it or not, free condoms with the AIDS Foundation logo printed right on them. And that's when it clicked. Mark had come from a super conservative, deeply Catholic family. His mother? A religious zealot. His father? The type of guy who thought empathy was a sign of weakness. Mark loved to dish out homophobic jokes, but the irony. That very prejudice would become the weapon we'd use against him. Now remember, this was the 90s. There was no email tracking, no instant fact-checking. But you know what we did have? A computer, a color inkjet printer, and teenage rage. We got to work. We crafted a letter, complete with the AIDS Foundation logo and official-looking language. It read something like this. Dear Mark, thank you for your recent letter. We understand it can be difficult coming to terms with your sexuality, and we're glad you reached out after attending our event. Enclosed, you'll find some helpful information and a few free samples to help you practice safe sex. Inside the envelope, we stuffed every flyer we'd gotten from the event, and the condoms. Then we addressed the letter, not to Mark, but to Mr., his last name, ensuring it would be opened by his parents. We sealed the envelope and dropped it in the mail. And then we waited. A few days later, it was like a bomb had gone off. Mark didn't show up to school. When he finally came back, days later, he looked like a ghost. His usual arrogance? Gone. He barely spoke, avoided everyone. We caught wind of the chaos through classmates and whispers in the hallway. Apparently, his mother had opened the letter first. She screamed. She cried. She accused Mark of lying to her. His father was furious, demanding answers. And Mark? He had no idea where it had come from. For a while, he truly believed it was real, that somehow the AIDS Foundation had mistaken him for someone else. Or worse, his classmates had reported him as gay. He was grounded for weeks, banned from seeing friends, forced into church counseling. It was brutal. But that wasn't even the best part. The best part was how we confirmed it had worked. A few weeks later, we casually brought up the AIDS event again, pretending like we just remembered it. Fishing for a reaction. Mark exploded. "You think you're funny? You think this is a joke?" That was all we needed to hear. He'd figured it out, but far too late. And yes, eventually we were caught. He ratted us out. We were dragged to the principal's office with both his parents glaring at us like we were the devil incarnate. We told the truth. We explained how he'd stolen from us, lied to us, mocked us for liking Queen, that we'd tried to be fair, and this was the only way to make him feel the pain he'd caused. Were we punished? Yeah. A suspension, some angry phone calls, a few lectures about boundaries and harassment. But even now, 30 years later, I don't regret it. Because Mark didn't just lose a few games. He lost his false sense of superiority. He was exposed, to his family, as someone they didn't understand and couldn't accept. And that feeling of fear, confusion, and being out of control, that was exactly what he'd made us feel. He took advantage of our trust. So we took control of the one thing he valued most: his image, his pride. And watching that tower crumble was the most satisfying moment of my teenage years. Sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. It's about balance. About taking back the power someone tried to steal from you. Would I do the same thing today as an adult? Probably not. But as a teenager back then, it was justice, in the most twisted, perfect way. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and hit subscribe for more stories just like this. And let me know in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed or pulled off? Because justice? Sometimes it comes in the form of a floppy disk, and sometimes it comes in the mail.